The alien ship appeared without warning above Earth's orbit, sleek and silver like a blade cutting through space. It transmitted a simple message in dozens of languages, requesting peaceful contact with humanity's leaders. Within hours, the United Nations had arranged a meeting at the orbital station that circled high above the planet. Admiral Jack Morrison stood in the reception bay, his gray uniform crisp and clean. Beside him waited Captain Linda Hayes, a woman with sharp eyes who specialized in understanding alien cultures and strategies. They watched as the airlock opened and revealed their first true visitor from the stars. Ambassador Velcor stepped through, tall and thin, with skin that shimmered like oil on water. His species, the Kalesh, had survived in the galaxy for thousands of years by being careful, by being smart, and by knowing when to run. He carried no weapons, only a data device that glowed softly in his three-fingered hand. "Greetings, humans," Velcor said through his translation device. His voice sounded like wind chimes, musical but sad. "I wish this meeting could be under better circumstances. I bring you a warning." Admiral Morrison gestured to the conference room. "Please tell us what you came to say." They sat around a table with Earth visible through the windows below, blue and green and beautiful. Velcor activated his device, and a hologram appeared above the table, showing a massive fleet of dark ships, each one covered in what looked like organic armor mixed with metal. "These are the harvesters," Velcor explained. "They move through the galaxy in cycles, appearing every few thousand years. They strip entire worlds of everything valuable: resources, technology, biological samples. They take it all and leave nothing but dead rocks behind." Captain Hayes leaned forward, studying the hologram carefully. "How many civilizations have they destroyed?" "Hundreds," Velcor replied quietly. "Maybe thousands. My people have records going back 20,000 years, and the harvesters were old even then. They are relentless, unstoppable. Every species that has tried to fight them has been eliminated." Admiral Morrison's expression remained calm. "And they're coming here?" Velcor nodded, his large eyes showing what looked like genuine sadness. "Your solar system lies directly in their path. We have tracked their movement and calculated their trajectory. They will arrive in approximately 18 months. I am sorry. We came to warn you, so you might evacuate what you can. Preserve your species somehow." The room fell silent for a moment. Velcor expected panic, perhaps tears or anger. Instead, Admiral Morrison simply nodded and said, "Thank you for the warning. Can you provide us with detailed information about their technology, their tactics, their fleet composition?" Velcor blinked, confused. "Did you understand what I said? The harvesters cannot be defeated. You have 18 months before they arrive. You should be preparing to flee, to preserve your culture and people." Captain Hayes smiled slightly. "Oh, we understand perfectly. We're preparing, just not in the way you think. Can you share that tactical data or not?" Yes, of course," Velcor said, still puzzled. He transferred files to the human systems. "But you must understand, no species has ever successfully fought the harvesters. The strongest military powers in the galaxy have tried and failed. What makes you think humans can succeed where everyone else has fallen?" Admiral Morrison stood and looked out at Earth below. "Because they've never fought us before. We've been fighting each other for thousands of years. We've gotten very good at it. Maybe too good." Within hours of Velcor's departure, the entire planet received the news. Every government, every military, every scientist and engineer learned that an unstoppable alien force was coming to harvest their world. The Kalesh expected chaos and despair. Instead, they watched in amazement as humanity did something unexpected. Commander Greg Palmer stood in the war room at Earth Defense Command, surrounded by representatives from every nation. The room should have been filled with arguments and panic. Instead, everyone looked focused, almost eager. 18 months, Palmer said, his voice steady. That's our timeline. Not to run, not to hide, to prepare. A general from the European Alliance spoke up. Our industrial capacity can be converted to military production within 3 months. We'll need designs for weapons, ships, defense platforms. Already working on it, replied Dr. Alan Foster, who led Earth's reverse engineering division. He pulled up the harvester data on the main screen. The Kalesh gave us everything they know about harvester technology. Their weapons, their armor, their power systems. We can analyze this, find weaknesses. And if there are no weaknesses, someone asked. Dr. Foster grinned. Then we make some. Captain Linda Hayes reviewed the data late into the night. The harvesters used biomechanical ships that could repair themselves. Their weapons fired concentrated energy beams that could slice through planets. Their shields had withstood nuclear weapons from other species without a scratch. She made notes, cross-referencing everything. The Kalesh had fought defensively, trying to protect their worlds, while the harvesters attacked. Every species had done the same. All of them had lost. They're thinking about this wrong, she muttered to herself. Her assistant, Lieutenant Kyle Roberts, looked up from his own work. What do you mean, Captain? Everyone tries to defend against the harvesters, Hayes explained. They wait for the attack, try to hold their ground. But humans don't fight that way. We don't just defend, we counterattack. We take the fight to the enemy. Roberts nodded slowly. You're thinking we should strike first? Hayes paused. I'm thinking we should strike hard, strike fast, and strike everywhere at once. The harvesters are used to fear. Let's give them something to be afraid of. Around the world, factories retooled their production lines. Car manufacturing plants began producing military vehicles. Computer chip facilities started making targeting systems. Scientists who had spent their careers studying peaceful applications of fusion energy now calculated how to turn reactors into weapons. The Kalesh maintained an observation post near Mars, watching humanity's response. Ambassador Velcor sent regular reports back to his homeworld, each one more bewildered than the last. They are not evacuating, he reported. They are building weapons platforms, new ships, defense networks. They work 20 hours a day, every day. I have never seen such focused determination. His superior's response came back quickly. Do they not understand the danger? The harvesters have destroyed species far more advanced than humans. Velcor watched as another massive weapons platform was towed into orbit. I believe they understand perfectly. They simply do not care. Or rather, they care very much, but not in the way we expected. When I told them about the harvesters, Admiral Morrison thanked me. He actually thanked me for the warning, as if I had done them a favor by telling them someone was coming to destroy them. What will you do? I will stay and watch, Velcor replied. Because either humanity will perform a miracle, or we will witness the fastest extinction in galactic history. Either way, this will be worth recording. Back on Earth, Admiral Morrison stood before the United Nations Assembly. Every seat was filled, every nation represented. He spoke calmly, clearly. 18 months from now, the harvesters will arrive, expecting to find a frightened species waiting to be processed. Instead, they're going to find humans, and we're going to teach them why you don't threaten our home. The assembly rose as one, not in panic, but in grim determination. The countdown had begun. The first month after the warning, the Earth transformed into something the galaxy had never seen before. Every nation pooled its resources into a single goal. Borders meant nothing anymore. Politics became irrelevant. There was only survival, and survival meant being ready to fight. Colonel Pete Brooks oversaw what humanity called the Sentinel Network. Thousands of automated defense platforms were being built in orbit around Earth, Mars, and the asteroid belt. Each platform contained railguns capable of firing solid metal slugs at incredible speeds. No explosives, no fancy technology, just pure kinetic energy, traveling fast enough to punch through anything. Simple is better, Brooks explained to his engineering team. The harvesters have shields that can absorb energy weapons, but shields are designed to stop lasers and plasma. They're not designed for a chunk of tungsten moving at 5% of light speed. Engineer Claire Dixon led the team developing what they called tungsten rain. Orbital platforms positioned around the solar system could accelerate projectiles using magnetic rails. The math was beautiful in its simplicity. Mass times velocity equals force. Make the velocity high enough, and even a small mass becomes devastating. "How many platforms are we building?" Dixon asked during one planning meeting. "As many as we can in 18 months, Brooks replied. "Current projection is 4,000. Maybe more if we can speed up production." "That's insane," someone muttered. Brooks smiled coldly. "The harvesters think they can waltz into our solar system and take whatever they want. Let's show them what insane really looks like." Dr. Susan Miller had spent her entire career developing peaceful applications for fusion technology. Now she worked on turning fusion reactors into weapons. The idea was simple but brutal. A fusion reactor contained incredible energy. If you removed all the safety systems and let that energy release at once, you created a bomb that made old nuclear weapons look like firecrackers. "We're weaponizing everything," Miller told her team. "Mining lasers, industrial cutters, construction equipment. If it has power, we can make it dangerous." Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez worked on what she privately called the dead man's switch. If humanity lost, if the harvesters somehow defeated Earth's defenses, they wouldn't get to harvest anything. Rodriguez had designed a network of antimatter bombs hidden throughout the solar system. One signal, and everything would detonate simultaneously. "The harvesters want our resources," Rodriguez explained to Admiral Morrison during a private briefing. "If we can't stop them, we make sure they get nothing. We burn it all." Morrison looked at the young officer with respect. "That's dark, Lieutenant." "So are they, sir. But at least we go down swinging." The shipyards in orbit worked non-stop. Every space station that used to serve tourists or scientists now built warships. Vice Admiral Chris Martin trained thousands of new pilots in combat simulators. The scenarios were all the same: outnumbered 10-1, no support, no retreat possible. Every pilot had to achieve mission completion rates of at least 80% before being clear for real combat. "You will be afraid," Martin told each new class of pilots. "That's normal. That's human. But you will not run. Because behind you is Earth. And on Earth is everyone you've ever loved. The harvesters go through you, or they don't go at all." The Kalesh watched all of this with growing amazement. Ambassador Velcor sent daily reports that his superiors found hard to believe. "They have converted their entire industrial capacity to military production," Velcor reported. "Every factory, every resource extraction site, everything serves the war effort." I asked one of their engineers why they don't keep some capacity for normal civilian needs. He looked at me like I was crazy and said, "There won't be any civilians if they lose." Navigation Officer Kyle Roberts proposed something that seemed impossible. The asteroid called Psyche, made almost entirely of metal, could be turned into a mobile weapons platform. Attach engines, mount weapons, and suddenly humanity had a flying fortress the size of a small moon. "It'll take 6 months just to attach the engines," one engineer protested. "Then we better start now," Roberts replied. They started immediately. Hundreds of ships flew to Psyche, carrying fusion engines and weapons systems. The asteroid became a construction site like nothing humanity had ever attempted. When finished, Psyche would be able to move anywhere in the solar system, carrying enough firepower to destroy entire fleets. Dr. Alan Foster worked day and night analyzing the harvester technology data provided by the Kalesh. His team included the best scientists from every country, all focused on finding weaknesses in what seemed like perfect designs. Their shields are adaptive, Foster explained during one briefing. They learn from each attack and adjust to defend against it better next time. Very sophisticated. So how do we beat them? Captain Linda Hayes asked. Foster grinned. We don't give them time to adapt. We hit them with everything at once. 1,000 different weapons, all different types, all at the same moment. Their shields can't adapt to everything simultaneously. The research led to weapons development that pushed the boundaries of physics. Gravity well generators that could crush ships. Electromagnetic pulse bombs that could fry electronics across vast distances. Experimental particle beams that existed only in theory until 3 months ago. We're building weapons the galaxy has never imagined, Foster said proudly, because we're too stupid to know they're impossible. Training exercises happened constantly. Every soldier, every pilot, every crew member ran drills until they could perform their duties in their sleep. Captain Dan Cooper commanded one of the new warships, the UNS Defiance. His crew trained for boarding actions, ship-to-ship combat, and suicide runs if necessary. The Harvesters are used to species that value survival above all else, Cooper told his crew. They expect fear and surrender. We're going to show them that humans value something more than survival. We value freedom, and we'll die before we give it up. The Kalesh observer ship near Mars detected massive energy signatures throughout the solar system. Defense platforms going online. New weapons being tested. Ships conducting combat drills. All of it pointed to a level of military preparation that seemed excessive even for the Harvester threat. They are building enough weapons to fight a war lasting years, Velcor reported. But the battle with the Harvesters will be decided in days, perhaps hours. His superior responded with concern. Perhaps they don't understand the scale of the threat. No, Velcor replied, they understand perfectly. I think they're not preparing to defend, they're preparing to destroy. There's a difference. Commander Lisa Grant worked on the Solar Mirror Array, a network of satellites that could focus sunlight into concentrated beams. The same technology used for peaceful solar power generation now became a weapon. By positioning hundreds of mirrors correctly, they could create beams hot enough to cut through ship hulls. It's elegant, Grant explained. We're using the sun itself as a weapon. Unlimited ammunition, no reloading needed. Major Frank Ellis commanded the fighter wings, small fast ships designed for kamikaze runs if necessary. Each fighter carried nuclear warheads, and pilots who understood they might not come back. You're all volunteers, Ellis reminded them during training. Anyone who wants out can leave, no judgment. Nobody left. Every pilot stayed, trained harder, and prepared to give everything if needed. Engineer Paul Green developed countermeasures against Harvester technology. Their ships used tractor beams to pull resources from planets. Green designed a reverse polarity system that would turn those beams back on the Harvesters, overloading their systems. They're going to try to harvest us. Let's give them indigestion. As the months passed, the solar system transformed into a fortress. Defense platforms surrounded every major orbital position. Ships patrolled constantly. Weapons were tested, refined, and mass-produced. Humanity worked with a single-minded focus that impressed even the Kalesh, who had survived millennia by being cautious and careful. I have seen many species prepare for war, Velcor reported after 12 months of observation. But I have never seen anything like this. Humans don't just prepare for battle. They prepare to win, regardless of the cost. Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge of Earth's primary command station, looking at status displays showing the defensive network. Thousands of weapons, millions of soldiers, endless determination. Behind him, Captain Hayes reviewed tactical plans. Do you think it'll be enough? Hayes asked quietly. Morrison considered the question carefully. I don't know, but I know this. When the harvesters arrive, they're expecting sheep. Instead, they're going to find wolves. And wolves don't run from threats. They eliminate them. With 1 month remaining before the projected harvester arrival, humanity held its breath and waited. The trap was set. The weapons were ready. Now they would see if preparation and determination could defeat an enemy that had destroyed hundreds of civilizations. The sensors detected them first, appearing at the edge of the solar system like a dark cloud blotting out the stars. The harvester fleet numbered in the hundreds, each ship massive and covered in biomechanical armor that looked both alive and dead at the same time. They moved in perfect formation, confident and unhurried, like predators approaching prey that couldn't possibly escape. Admiral Jack Morrison watched the displays from Earth Defense Command. Every screen showed different angles of the approaching fleet. Around him, officers worked quietly, efficiently. No panic, no fear, just focused determination. "They're exactly where the Kalesh predicted," Captain Linda Hayes said, studying the tactical display. "Moving at standard harvester approach speed, no deviation from expected patterns." "They've done this so many times, they're bored," Morrison observed. "Boredom makes you sloppy." The harvester fleet transmitted their standard message, broadcasting it across all frequencies. The translation came through in emotionless tones. "Attention, inferior species. You have been selected for harvesting. Surrender your resources. Resistance is futile. You will be processed. Compliance will result in minimal casualties." In the communications center, the transmission was received and analyzed. Then Captain Dan Cooper, commanding the UNS Defiance, positioned near Jupiter, opened a response channel. His voice was calm, almost friendly. "Harvester Fleet, this is Captain Cooper of the United Nations Space Command. You have entered sovereign human territory without authorization. You are ordered to leave immediately, or you will be destroyed. This is your only warning." Silence followed for a moment. Then the harvester fleet continued its advance, not even bothering to respond. They had heard threats before from countless species. All of them had died. They expected humans would be no different. The harvesters moved deeper into the solar system, passing the orbit of Neptune. Their sensors detected the defense platforms, but dismissed them as primitive and unthreatening. They had shields that could withstand nuclear weapons. What could humans possibly do with such basic technology? They were about to find out. "All stations," Admiral Morrison's voice echoed across every military channel. "Weapons free. Fire at will." The Sentinel network activated simultaneously. 4,000 orbital platforms opened fire at once, each one launching tungsten slugs accelerated to 5% of light speed. The projectiles crossed the distance to the harvester fleet in seconds. The harvester's shields activated automatically, designed to absorb energy weapons. These were solid metal, moving fast enough that relativistic effects made them hit with the force of nuclear bombs. The first wave struck before the harvesters could react. 17 ships simply ceased to exist, torn apart by kinetic impacts their shields weren't designed to stop. Debris scattered across space, glowing hot from the impacts. The harvester fleet broke formation for the first time in recorded history. Their advance halted as they tried to understand what had just happened. "Second wave," Morrison ordered. "Focus fire on their command ships." Another 1,000 railgun rounds fired. The harvesters attempted to maneuver, but they were massive ships designed for harvesting, not combat maneuvers. More ships exploded or broke apart, their biomechanical hulls unable to withstand the kinetic bombardment. Commander Lisa Grant activated the solar mirror array. Hundreds of satellites aligned perfectly, focusing concentrated sunlight into beams that could melt steel. The beams swept across the harvester formation, slicing through ships like a knife through paper. "They're trying to deploy their harvesting beams," one of Grant's technicians reported. Let them, Grant replied coldly. Paul, you're up. Engineer Paul Green activated the reverse polarity system. The moment the harvester beams reached Earth's orbital space, they encountered the countermeasure. The beams bounced back, overloading the harvester systems that generated them. 5 more ships went dark, systems fried by their own weapons. Major Frank Ellis led his fighter wing into the chaos. Small, fast ships darted between the massive harvester vessels, each fighter loaded with nuclear warheads. The fighters didn't try to fight the big ships directly. Instead, they targeted connection points, engine clusters, and weapon emplacements. Echo 3, target that command tower, Ellis ordered. Delta Wing, cover their approach. Nuclear explosions blossomed across the battlefield as fighters made suicide runs into critical harvester infrastructure. Some fighters were destroyed by defensive fire, but for every fighter lost, a harvester ship was crippled or destroyed. The Kalesh observation post near Mars watched in stunned silence. Ambassador Velkor's hands trembled as he recorded the battle. "They're winning," he whispered. "By all the stars in the galaxy, they're actually winning." The harvesters, faced with losses they hadn't experienced in thousands of years, attempted to retreat and regroup. But humanity wasn't done. "Don't let them create distance," Captain Hayes ordered. "All ships, pursue and engage. We can't give them time to adapt their shields." The human fleet, hundreds of warships built in the last 18 months, surged forward. They were smaller than harvester ships, but faster and more maneuverable. They swarmed the retreating enemy like wolves, bringing down prey. Captain Cooper's ship, the UNS Defiance, led the charge. His crew worked in perfect coordination, weapons firing, shields adjusting, engines pushing them faster toward the enemy. "Target their engines," Cooper ordered. "Mobility kills. If they can't move, they can't fight effectively." The Defiance's main cannon, a weapon that fired focused plasma at a fraction of light speed, struck a harvester ship's engine cluster. The ship went dead in space, drifting helplessly. Lieutenant Kyle Roberts, commanding a destroyer, used a new tactic. His ship carried gravity well generators, experimental weapons that could create artificial gravity fields. He positioned his ship above a harvester vessel and activated the generator. The artificial gravity crushed the harvester ship like a tin can, its biomechanical hull collapsing under impossible force. The ship imploded, destroyed by physics itself. "Gravity kill confirmed," Roberts reported. "Harvester ships aren't reinforced for vertical stress. Recommend all ships equipped with gravity generators use this tactic." Within minutes, other ships copied the technique. The harvesters found themselves being crushed, shot, burned, and torn apart by weapons and tactics they had never encountered before. The battle raged for 6 hours. The harvesters, used to quick, easy harvesting operations, couldn't adapt to this level of resistance. Every tactic they tried was countered. Every formation they formed was broken. Every retreat they attempted was cut off. Finally, what remained of the harvester forward fleet, less than a third of the ships that had arrived, managed to create enough distance to engage their faster-than-light drives. They jumped away, leaving dozens of destroyed ships and confused, terrified survivors. Admiral Morrison watched them go. Around him, the command center erupted in cheers, officers hugging each other and celebrating the impossible victory. "Silence," Morrison ordered, and the room went quiet. "We won the first battle, but that was just their scout force. The Kalesh data says their main fleet is at least 10 times larger. This was just a test." Captain Hayes nodded grimly. "They were testing our defenses, seeing what we could do. Now they know we're dangerous." "Good," Morrison replied. "Let them know. Let them fear us the way they've made countless other species fear them. Because when their main fleet arrives, we're going to show them that humans are the apex predators in this solar system." The celebration died down as reality set in. They had won, But the real fight was still coming. The survivors of the Harvester fleet would report back. They would tell their commanders that humanity was dangerous, that the shields couldn't stop human weapons, that the tactics didn't work. And the Harvesters would come back with everything they had. Dr. Alan Foster began analyzing debris from destroyed Harvester ships. Every piece of technology would be studied, reverse-engineered, and used against them. "We have maybe 2 weeks before their main fleet arrives," Foster told his team. "I want every piece of Harvester tech weaponized, their shields, their weapons, their armor. If it can hurt them, we build it." Ambassador Velcor sent his report to the Kalesh homeworld. His message was simple but shocking. Humanity has defeated a Harvester forward fleet with minimal losses. The Harvesters retreated. I repeat, the Harvesters retreated. This has never happened in recorded galactic history. I believe we may be witnessing the rise of a new apex species. On Earth, people celebrated the victory while soldiers reloaded weapons and prepared for the next fight. The Harvesters had been hurt, but not destroyed. The real battle was still coming. Admiral Morrison stood alone on the observation deck, looking at Earth below. Beautiful, fragile, worth dying for. The Harvesters thought they could take it. They had learned otherwise. "Come back with your main fleet," Morrison said quietly. "We'll be waiting." The 2 weeks following the first battle were not spent celebrating. Every human military installation worked around the clock, analyzing what they had learned, and preparing for what everyone knew was coming. The Harvester main fleet would arrive soon, and this time they would be ready for human tactics. Colonel Beth Sanders led a team doing something that made even hardened soldiers nervous. They were boarding damaged Harvester ships that had been left behind, cutting through the biomechanical hulls to explore the interiors and gather intelligence. "Seal your suits," Sanders ordered, as her team cut through the outer hull of a disabled Harvester cruiser. "We don't know what atmosphere these things use, or if they even need atmosphere." The interior of the Harvester ship was like nothing human eyes had seen before. The walls were part organic, part mechanical, pulsing slightly as if alive. Cables that looked like veins ran through corridors that seemed grown rather than built. "This is disturbing," one of Sanders' team members muttered. "Focus," Sanders replied. "Find their computer core. We need their data." They pushed deeper into the ship, past chambers filled with processing equipment that must have been used to break down harvested materials. Everything was designed with brutal efficiency. Nothing wasted, nothing unnecessary. These ships existed only to take and consume. Dr. Henry White, a specialist in alien computer systems, found what they were looking for: a chamber filled with crystalline structures that glowed with faint light. The Harvester computer system was organic data storage, information kept in crystal matrices. "Can you download it?" Sanders asked. "I can try," White replied, connecting human computers to the alien system. They never expected anyone to board their ships. The data transfer took 30 minutes. When it finished, White had copied the entire Harvester database. Fleet compositions, technology specifications, navigational charts showing everywhere they had been. Everything the Harvesters knew. "Got it," White said. "We should leave before their self-destruct activates." They evacuated quickly. Minutes later, the Harvester ship exploded, destroying itself to prevent further intelligence gathering. But it was too late. Humanity had their secrets. Back at Earth Defense Command, Dr. Alan Foster's team began analyzing the data. What they found was both encouraging and terrifying. The Harvesters had destroyed hundreds of civilizations over thousands of years. Their technology was ancient and refined. But it was also predictable, following patterns established long ago. "They haven't innovated in millennia," Foster explained to Admiral Morrison. "They found methods that worked and stuck with them. That's their weakness. They don't adapt quickly. But they will adapt eventually," Captain Linda Hayes pointed out. "After our first battle, they know our tactics. They'll adjust." "Then we don't give them time to adjust," Morrison decided. We take the fight to them before their main fleet gets organized. The strategy was aggressive, almost reckless. Rather than wait for the Harvester main fleet to arrive at Earth, humanity would strike first. Long-range missiles, packed with antimatter warheads, would be launched to intercept the Harvester fleet while it was still traveling. Lieutenant Jeff Mason oversaw the integration of captured Harvester shield technology into human ships. Within days, humanity's warships had shields that could adapt and adjust, just like Harvester shields, but with human modifications that made them more flexible. We took their shields and improved them, Mason explained. Ours can adapt faster and handle more types of attacks simultaneously. Captain Nicole Barnes commanded the UNS Retribution, the first ship built using hybrid human harvester technology. It was faster than any human ship before it, with weapons that combined the best of both technologies. The ship looked dangerous, sharp angles and heavy armor, built for one purpose only. How does she handle? Admiral Morrison asked during the ship's first test flight. Barnes smiled. Like a dream, sir. Like a beautiful, deadly dream. The Kalesh sent urgent warnings. Ambassador Velcor contacted Earth Defense Command, his message desperate. Please, you must understand. The Harvester main fleet consists of over 3,000 ships. What you fought before was nothing compared to what is coming. You should evacuate your people. Preserve your species. Fighting is suicide. Captain Hayes responded calmly. Ambassador, with respect, we appreciate your concern. But we're not evacuating. We're not hiding. We're going to end the Harvesters. End them? Velcor's voice cracked. You cannot end them. They are eternal. They have survived longer than most civilizations exist. Then it's time someone put them out of business, Hayes replied. You might want to move your observation post further away. Things are about to get violent. Major Steve Collins proposed the strike plan. 50 antimatter missiles would be launched on ballistic trajectories toward the approaching Harvester fleet. The missiles were designed to look like asteroids, cold and dead in space, undetectable until it was too late. They won't expect us to have the range to hit them this far out, Collins explained. By the time they detect the missiles, detonation will be seconds away. The missiles launched from hidden platforms in the outer solar system. They coasted silently through space, just chunks of rock and ice as far as sensors could tell. Inside each one waited enough antimatter to destroy a small moon. The Harvester main fleet was 3 days away from Earth when the missiles arrived. They detected nothing wrong until the first missile detonated next to a Harvester command ship. The antimatter explosion released pure energy, matter and antimatter annihilating each other completely. The Harvester ship vanished in a flash of light bright enough to be seen from Earth. Then the second missile hit, and the third, and the fourth. In 30 seconds, 50 Harvester support ships were destroyed. The main fleet scattered, trying to identify the threat. Their sensors found nothing, because the missiles were already gone, consumed completely by their own detonations. First blood, Admiral Morrison said quietly. Now they know we can reach them anywhere. The Harvester main fleet adjusted its approach, spreading out to make themselves harder to hit with area effect weapons. They accelerated, trying to reach Earth quickly before humans could prepare more surprises. They arrived 2 days ahead of schedule, angry and cautious. The fleet that appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system was enormous, a wall of ships that stretched across millions of miles of space. 3,000 vessels, each one designed to strip worlds of resources. Captain Dan Cooper, still commanding the UNS Defiance, looked at the tactical display and whistled softly. That's a lot of targets. Then we better start shooting, his weapons officer replied. But before the battle could begin, something unexpected happened. A single human ship moved forward, ahead of the defensive lines. The UNS Retribution, Captain Barnes commanding, flew straight toward the Harvester fleet. What is she doing? someone asked in the command center. Captain Hayes checked the communication logs. She's broadcasting a message. To all Harvester ships. Barnes' voice came through clearly on all channels. Attention Harvester fleet. You came here to harvest our world. You expected us to be afraid. You expected us to surrender. You were wrong. On behalf of humanity, and on behalf of every species you've destroyed, I have a message for you. The Retribution's weapons powered up. All of them. Every cannon and missile launcher glowing with ready power. Come and get us, Barnes said. Then she opened fire. The lone ship against 3,000, weapons blazing, flying straight into the enemy fleet with no hesitation and no fear. The Harvester fleet returned fire, thousands of weapons targeting the single human ship. But the Retribution's hybrid shields held, deflecting or absorbing the incoming fire. Barnes flew her ship through the Harvester formation like a fighter pilot, fast and agile, weapons firing constantly. She's trying to draw them into range of our defense platforms, Hayes realized. She's baiting them. It worked. The Harvester fleet, enraged by the audacity of a single ship attacking them, pursued the Retribution deeper into the solar system. They wanted to crush this insect that dared challenge them. They flew straight into the trap. All stations, Admiral Morrison ordered, engage. The real battle began. 4,000 defense platforms opened fire. Hundreds of human warships surged forward. The solar mirror array activated, burning beams cutting through space. Fighter wings launched, each pilot ready to die if needed. And in the middle of it all, Captain Barnes flew the Retribution in a victory roll before pulling back to rejoin the human fleet. Nice flying, Admiral Morrison transmitted to her ship. Now, let's finish this. The Harvesters had come for easy prey. Instead, they found themselves fighting for survival against an enemy that refused to die, refused to surrender, and seemed to enjoy the fight. For the first time in their ancient existence, the Harvesters knew fear, and humanity was just getting started. The battle for Earth's solar system raged across millions of miles of space. 3,000 Harvester ships faced humanity's assembled defenses, and the void between worlds burned with weapons fire and explosions. The Harvesters had brought everything they had, confident that overwhelming force would crush human resistance quickly. They were learning that confidence was not the same as certainty. Admiral Jack Morrison watched tactical displays showing the entire battlefield. Red markers indicated Harvester ships, blue showed human vessels. The red outnumbered the blue 5-1, but blue markers weren't disappearing. If anything, red markers were vanishing faster. Status report, Morrison ordered. Captain Linda Hayes read from her display. Sentinel Network has fired 70% of available ammunition. Effectiveness remains high. Solar mirror array operating at maximum capacity. Fighter wings have lost 18% of craft, but destroyed or crippled 200 enemy vessels. Casualties? Hayes paused. 12 ships lost, approximately 4,000 personnel. Morrison's jaw tightened. 4,000 people dead. 4,000 families who would never see their loved ones again. But those 4,000 had taken down 200 Harvester ships, ships that had destroyed countless civilizations. Make their sacrifice count, Morrison said quietly. All ships, continue engagement. Focus fire on enemy command vessels. The UNS Defiance, Captain Dan Cooper commanding, led a squadron of destroyers against a Harvester dreadnought. The massive enemy ship was covered in weapons and armor, designed to withstand anything thrown at it. That thing is huge, Cooper's weapons officer said nervously. Then we just need to hit harder, Cooper replied. All ships, concentrate fire on the same point. Overload their shields with focused bombardment. 6 human ships fired simultaneously at a single point on the dreadnought's shields. The shields flickered, then failed. The follow-up shots tore through the unprotected hull, explosions ripping through the interior. But the dreadnought wasn't dead yet. It returned fire, its main weapon a beam of concentrated energy that could boil away atmosphere from planets. The beam struck the destroyer next to Cooper's ship, and the vessel simply ceased to exist. Vaporized instantly. "Evasive maneuvers," Cooper shouted. Another beam lanced through space where his ship had been seconds before. "Get us behind that wreck. Use it for cover." The Defiance dove behind a destroyed harvester cruiser, using the Hulk as a shield, while lining up another shot. Cooper's crew worked with practiced efficiency, weapons charging, engines adjusting position, everyone focused on survival and victory. "Target locked," the weapons officer reported. "Fire," Cooper ordered. The shot struck the dreadnought's damaged section, penetrating deep into its core. The massive ship shuddered, then broke apart from internal explosions. Pieces scattered across space, glowing from released energy. "Splash 1 dreadnought," Cooper reported, moving to next target. Commander Tim Wright commanded a cruiser positioned near Mars. His ship had taken damage, shields failing, hull breached in 3 places, but his weapons still worked, and there were still harvesters to kill. "Sir, we should fall back for repairs," his executive officer urged. Wright looked at the tactical display. A formation of harvester ships was moving to flank the main human defensive line. If they succeeded, they could hit Earth's orbital platforms from an undefended angle. "Negative," Wright said. "All power to engines. We're going to stop that flanking maneuver." "Sir, we can't." "We can, and we will," Wright interrupted. "Because if we don't, those ships reach Earth. Set collision course with the lead vessel. Everyone to escape pods." His crew understood immediately. They weren't running. They were making their last stand count. The cruiser, damaged but still capable of movement, accelerated directly toward the lead harvester ship. The enemy fired, hitting the cruiser repeatedly, but Wright's ship kept coming. At the last moment, the crew evacuated in escape pods, while Wright stayed at the controls. The cruiser struck the harvester ship at tremendous speed. Both vessels exploded, the fusion reactor detonating and taking out 2 more harvester ships caught in the blast radius. Commander Wright died, but his sacrifice saved hundreds of thousands of lives on Earth. Dr. Julie Adams worked frantically in a medical bay on one of the orbital stations. Wounded soldiers and crew members arrived constantly. Injuries from weapons fire, explosive decompression, radiation exposure. Adams and her team worked miracles, saving everyone they could. "We're running low on medical supplies," a nurse reported. "Then stretch what we have," Adams replied, not looking up from the patient she was treating. "These people fought for us. We don't give up on them." Lieutenant Kyle Roberts commanded a destroyer equipped with the gravity well generators. He had refined the tactic during the first battle, and now he used it with devastating effect. His ship moved above harvester vessels and activated the generator, crushing them with artificial gravity. "Target destroyed," Roberts reported after his 7th kill. "Moving to next position." But the harvesters had finally figured out the tactic. A group of enemy ships focused fire on Roberts' destroyer, overwhelming the shields and punching through the hull. The ship lost power, drifting helplessly. "Evacuate," Roberts ordered his crew. "I'll stay and activate the self-destruct when they try to board." "Sir, you don't have to." "Yes, I do," Roberts said firmly. "I'm the captain. This is my ship. Get everyone out." The crew evacuated while Roberts prepared to self-destruct. But before the harvesters could approach, another human ship swept in, taking position between Roberts' destroyer and the enemy. "This is Captain Barnes on the Retribution," a voice came through the damaged communication system. "We're towing you out of here." The Retribution's tractor beam locked onto the destroyed destroyer and pulled it away from the battle zone, shields protecting both ships from enemy fire. Roberts survived because Barnes refused to leave anyone behind. Major Ryan Bell commanded a Marine detachment defending one of the orbital platforms. Harvester boarding parties had managed to breach the station's outer hull, biomechanical soldiers pouring through the gap. "Hold this position," Bell ordered his troops. "They get through us, they reach the reactor controls." The Marines fought with rifles, grenades, and hand-to-hand combat when ammunition ran low. The Harvester soldiers were strong and relentless, but the Marines were defending their home. Every meter of corridor was paid for in blood. Bell himself took 3 hits from Harvester weapons, but kept fighting, refusing to fall back. When reinforcements finally arrived, they found Bell still standing, surrounded by Harvester corpses, the reactor room secure. "Status?" the reinforcement commander asked. Bell smiled through bloodied teeth. "We held. The line holds." The battle reached its critical point when Captain Barnes identified the Harvester command ship. It was massive, easily 10 times larger than any other vessel, positioned at the center of their formation. "That's the brain," Barnes said. "Kill that, and the whole fleet loses coordination." "It's too well defended," Captain Hayes pointed out. 20 ships guarding it, all of them heavy cruisers. "Then we don't go through them," Barnes replied. "We go over them." The Retribution, along with 10 other human ships, climbed above the plane of battle. They accelerated to maximum speed, then dove straight down toward the command ship. Coming from an angle the defensive ships weren't positioned to intercept. The Harvester command ship fired every weapon it had, filling space with deadly energy beams and projectiles. 3 human ships were destroyed during the approach. 2 more were crippled and forced to break off. But Barnes kept coming. The Retribution's shields took hit after hit, failing section by section, but the ship didn't slow down. "All remaining ships," Barnes transmitted. "Focus everything on my target point. 1 shot, all together." 5 ships fired simultaneously, every weapon they had, all aimed at the same point on the command ship's hull. The combined firepower punched through shields and armor, penetrating deep into the vessel's core. Lieutenant Sam Butler, Barnes' weapons officer, fired the final shot. A relativistic kinetic impactor, a solid slug of metal accelerated to near light speed. The projectile struck the command ship's power core. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the entire ship lit up from within, energy bleeding through the hull. The command ship exploded, a detonation so massive it destroyed 5 nearby Harvester vessels. Across the battlefield, Harvester ships lost coordination. Without their command ship, they operated independently, no longer working as a unified fleet. Human forces pressed the advantage, surrounding and destroying enemy ships that could no longer support each other effectively. "They're breaking," Captain Hayes reported. "Harvester ships are attempting to retreat." "No," Admiral Morrison said coldly. "No retreat, no survivors. We end this here, now, forever." The human fleet pursued the fleeing Harvesters. It wasn't a battle anymore. It was extermination. Every Harvester ship that tried to escape was hunted down and destroyed. No mercy, no quarter, no second chances. The species that had terrorized the galaxy for thousands of years died in a single day, their entire fleet destroyed above Earth. When the last Harvester ship exploded, silence fell across the communication channels. Then, slowly, cheering began. It started in one ship, then spread to others, until every human vessel rang with celebration. But in Earth Defense Command, Admiral Morrison didn't celebrate. He looked at the casualty reports. 38 ships lost, 15,000 personnel dead, countless wounded. The price of victory written in blood. Captain Hayes stood beside him. "We won, sir." "At a terrible cost," Morrison replied. "But yes, we won." Ambassador Velcor's message arrived minutes later, his voice filled with awe. "You have achieved the impossible. The Harvesters are no more. In one battle, humanity has accomplished what the galaxy could not do in thousands of years. Morrison recorded a response. "We didn't do it alone. Your warning gave us time to prepare. But understand this, Ambassador. Humanity is not prey. We're predators. We've always been predators. The harvesters forgot that the most dangerous species is the one that fights back." In the weeks that followed, human ships salvaged harvester technology from the wreckage. Everything the harvesters had learned in millennia of existence now belonged to humanity. Shields, weapons, faster-than-light drives, all of it studied and improved. The Kalesh sent a message to the galactic community, a simple warning that spread across known space. The harvester threat has been eliminated by humanity of Earth. Approach them with respect, not condescension. Offer them friendship, not threats. And whatever you do, never ever threaten their home. They are the new apex species in this region of space. Act accordingly. Admiral Morrison stood on the observation deck, looking at Earth below. The planet that had been threatened with harvesting continued to spin peacefully, its people safe, because others had been willing to fight and die for it. Captain Barnes joined him, her arm in a sling from injuries sustained during the battle. "What now, sir?" she asked. Morrison considered the question. "Now we build, we explore, we meet other species, hopefully in peace. But we remember what we learned here. The galaxy is dangerous, and humanity survived because we were more dangerous than anything that threatened us." "The harvesters came here thinking we'd be easy prey," Bard said. Morrison smiled grimly. "They thought wrong. We thanked them for the warning, then we showed them what humans do when someone threatens our home. And we win." Earth had survived its first test as a spacefaring species. The harvesters were extinct, destroyed by the very species they had come to harvest. Humanity had proven that it belonged among the stars, not as prey, but as protectors. The galaxy would never underestimate humans again.